What's going on, Jets fans? In this one, we are going to give pro comps for every single 2023 New York Jets draft pick. Of course, starting with our first round pick, Will McDonald. And I compare him to Leonard Floyd, specifically the LA Rams version of Leonard Floyd. Obviously, Floyd's career got off to a little bit of a disappointing start in Chicago, comes to LA, really finds his own. Now, I'm not the first person to say this. Chris Sims gave this comp. And honestly, if I were to give a different one, I'd just be trying to be different because he really, really nailed it. The build, the athleticism, the long arms, the fluidity. What impresses me the most about Will McDonald, and I've watched every single snap now the last 2 years, by far the most I've watched of any Jets drafted player. It's the improvisational instincts, right? When you're a pass rusher, yes, you have to have a plan, you have to have a bag, but it's like being a good post player in basketball. Yes, you have the moves that you've practiced, but you need to feel how you're being guarded and instinctually counter to your secondary and tertiary moves without a thought. And Will McDonald can do that. He can absolutely do that. And Leonard Floyd, since he went to LA 3 years in a row, 9+ sacks each year, 50+ pressures each year. You don't have to get Reggie White, okay, at pick 15. This is a really highly impactful player, and the Rams thought he was worth a $65 million contract. I think we take that in Will McDonald. I'd also add the caveat that I think Will McDonald will do one thing specifically better than Floyd, and that is knock the ball out. McDonald has a knack for strip sacks. Floyd only 3 forced fumbles in his career. Will McDonald had 6 forced fumbles his last 2 years at Iowa State. That's huge. Now, run defense. Yeah, look, he's built like a basketball player. I don't think he's ever going to be a great edge setting, run defender. He's not going to be JFM, who's 287 pounds. But I think run defense is more than just setting the edge. There's skills. There's an instinctual component to that. It's about you see him playing 4-eye, head up on the tackle, ripping through B gaps, double teams, crossing the faces of guards and getting in the backfield and being able to tackle outside of his frame. As a defensive end, you can't just mash into the offensive tackle and, I've set the edge. That's all I have to do. No, sometimes you have to disengage and then make the tackle. And that's something that Carl Lawson has really struggled with, which has kind of been, a not very talked about component of the Jets' lack of run defense last year. But he can do that. He can get off the block and he can stick those absurdly long arms and make tackles. Last game I watched of him was against Texas when he was blowing up plays in the backfield against Bijan Robinson multiple times. So give me Leonard Floyd with a little bit of strip sack magic. We'll take that all day long for Will McDonald. Next, Joe Tippmann. I'm going to call him Frank Ragnow. Now, a quick caveat. These are all going to be pragmatically optimistic, I would say. I'm not going to project any busts. That's no fun. But of course, they're all not going to end up being these highly impact players. Not every draft is like that. Just a quick caveat there. So this is a fairly, if these guys hit, what could they realistically be? And Frank Ragnow, 6'5.5" plus athlete, excellent moving in space, a road grader. But there's concerns about pad level. That was the scouting report on Frank Ragnow. That sounds verbatim what people were saying about Joe Tippmann. And Ragnow, since being drafted, has become part of the glue of one of the best offensive lines in the NFL in Detroit. In 5 years, 65 starts, made 2 Pro Bowls. Are we taking that from Joe Tippmann's first 5 years with the New York Jets? Yeah, absolutely. I think we finally got our franchise center, the first one since Nick Mangold. We'll call him Frank Ragnow. And up next is Carter Warren. This might be the most optimistic one because he is a mid-round pick, but so was Deion Dawkins. I think Deion Dawkins was picked somewhere in the 60s, left tackle for the Buffalo Bills. And what I see here in Carter Warren is the traits to be a rock-solid pass-protecting left tackle. I don't see nasty in the run game like I do with Tippmann as an offensive lineman. And he also struggles when facing exceptional power. But I see a player who can develop into a guy who can do one very important job, and that is just keep the quarterback clean from the blind side. And Deion Dawkins has been doing that for the better part of a decade. That would be a certified steal if Carter Warren turns into Deion Dawkins. Next, his teammate, Izzy Benjamin. I compare him to Raheem Mostert. Obviously, hopefully a more healthy, durable Raheem Mostert. He's not a Swiss Army knife. He's a firecracker, right? He's a stick of dynamite. His game is vision and speed. I can see the hole, and I am faster than your linebackers and safeties. And Can he pass block? I don't know. They didn't ask him too much. Can he be a receiving back? I don't know. They didn't ask him too much. But I do know he has the speed and just enough strength to run through arm tackles to be a home run threat anytime he touches the ball. Dude, you see Raheem Mostert, what he did this some defenses last year in Miami? My goodness. Yeah, we'll take that in the 5th round. No doubt about it. All right, I'm not going in exact order here. I'm kind of sneaking Zach Kuntz in here because I think he's more exciting than the last couple of draft picks. And there I have Mike Gesicki, who obviously was a 1st-round pick who's been a pretty significant disappointment. But I think what you're seeing here is essentially like kind of just big slot receivers, really. Gesicki is just not strong at the catch point, can't really block at all. But he is a player that maybe, and again, he's a 7th-round pick, so we're talking lottery ticket here. But maybe if he hits, do you carve out a special role for him situationally? Mike Gesicki has a couple of seasons with 700 yards. I mean, if Zach Kuntz does that as a 7th-round pick, you'll take that all day long. I think they have a very similar skill set, although Gesicki was obviously a much more accomplished prospect coming out of college. All right. Next, we got Zaire Barnes, and he reminds me of the 49ers version of Marcel Harris. I think we would take that, a player who can come in and be a special teams contributor and with a ceiling of even being a 3rd linebacker. If you can develop him into that, which Marcel Harris was, the coverage linebackers on Robert Saleh's 49ers defense, came to the Jets, didn't really work out, didn't really find a niche in the Jets defense. But yeah, a guy who can come in, spot you 15% of the snaps on defense and play significant role on special teams. As when we're getting to the 6th and 7th round, we'll take that. And to finish it off with another Jets comparison, we got Bernard Converse, a defensive back from LSU. And this reminds me of the Jason Pinnock pick, right? A toolsy, a traitsy corner that's big, that maybe they're looking to transition to safety. And hey, even Pinnock, man, I think you could argue that we should have kept him over, I don't know, Joyner or Will Parks. And Pinnock can play a little bit. He started a handful of games in a decent defense with the Giants last year. And I think that if, again, you're talking 6th, 7th round, if we can get a player who can spot start, really play any role at all, that's a win. So there it is. There's my pro comps for the Jets draft class. Optimistic, but I think not too crazy